All right, 49er fans, go ahead and get to the latest 49ers news and rumors here on the Chat Sports 49ers Report YouTube channel. There is a lot to go ahead and get into. I mean, a lot has been going down in San Francisco, but of course, this video is it's going to get into all of it. We're going to get into all the nitty-gritty in terms of our San Francisco 49ers, starting with Richard Sherman. Yes, I know. I've been DM'd many times on Twitter. Thomas, did you see the news? Richard Sherman says he's not going to come back to the 49ers. Yes, I saw. Here's the deal. So apparently he was talking to the Sacramento Bee over the past couple of days, and they asked him straight up, like, do you think you're going to return to San Francisco? And Sherman says they are likely to part ways. Didn't guarantee it, but as you'll see in the quote, it feels like a complete guarantee, and it seems like even though he met with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, the future does not seem to really include the burgundy and gold. He's not going to be a San Francisco 49er going forward in 2021. He's going to be a free agent in March, starting March 17th, and there will be teams lining up to go ahead and sign him. We talked about the Jets, talked about the Raiders. There are a lot of teams that could use that leader at cornerback, that savvy veteran to go ahead and lead them into what I guess the Raiders and Jets hope would be a winning season. But to me, I'm bummed about this. We'll talk about it here in a second. First, let's go to Sherman's quote to the Sacramento Bee. Quote, it's been made pretty clear. It was a good conversation, nothing crazy, just a good conversation about where they are, where I am, and their plans. We were both very positive, as good as you can be in a situation like this. He would later go on to talk about, again, that he is not expected to go ahead and return to the 49ers. Now, overall, career, 34 games, really good. I think he's been really, really good when he's brought over from Seattle. Some people thought he was washed up and, never going to be the Legion of Boom Richard Sherman that he once was, arguably the best cornerback in the National Football League. And boom, 4 interceptions, 116 tackles, and really just brought a leadership standpoint to the cornerback position that the Niners desperately needed during what really was a regime change and a complete rebuild from a 49er perspective post, Chip Kelly era in San Francisco. He was a big key and a big part of that. I'm very grateful for him and everything he did in San Francisco. I think health has been an issue for him and maybe one of the reasons why they're not going to go ahead and re-sign him. I think money is an issue as well. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But overall, this is, I think, a little bit of a surprise, but also not that big of a surprise just based on the fact that he is, of course, getting up there in age. He'll be 33 by the start of the NFL season. What do you guys think? Are you, super bummed about this? Are you, really, really mad that they're going to let him go? And again, they are going to let him go. That's the report. Type R if the 49ers are wrong for doing this. Or sorry, R if they're right. Type W if they are wrong. I get W's and R's correct. Type R if they're right. Type W if they are wrong in all of this. I feel pretty good about, it being the right decision. But pin comment down below if you're watching this later on. Go ahead and get those answers right now. Listen, when you look about Richard Sherman, you think about exactly why this is going down, it's pretty simple. He probably wanted too much money. I'll be honest. I think that is probably exactly the reason why the Niners are not going to go ahead and re-sign Richard Sherman. If he wanted to come back on a team-friendly deal, they would re-sign him right now. If you would say, hey, guys, listen, one more contract, make it a little bit cheaper. That way you guys aren't having any sort of cap issues. I'll go ahead and come back. They would have re-signed him. I feel very confident in that. But because they aren't going to re-sign him, the only thing we can take away from that is that he probably wants a little bit too much money. Now, let's be real here. It's not even to knock Richard Sherman for no, bad, you should take less money. No, I don't feel that way. I'm just saying that the Niners have a business model that the team has in the National Football League, and they understood what they wanted to pay Sherman. He probably wanted too much. They said, all right, we'll draft somebody at number 12, or we'll re-sign one of our other younger ones, like Keller Witherspoon, who's only 27 years old, probably Jason Verrett. I feel very confident in their bringing back Jason Verrett, and maybe save some money to go ahead and bring back nickel cornerback K'Wan Williams. So we look at this from both sides, right? The Niners obviously are going to lose a veteran leader, but Richard Sherman's going to get one more shot to get one final big contract and maybe go win somewhere else, even though I do feel like the best place for him right now is to stay in San Francisco. If I was going to guess where he would go, I would feel really good about the Raiders. John Gruden's trying to recruit him and did try to recruit him on the Chris Collinsworth podcast a couple of weeks ago. The Jets, maybe if he just wants money, but I think he wants to win too. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes somewhere and takes maybe even a pay cut to have a better shot at winning. Maybe he goes to Tampa Bay trying to win. I don't know, but I do feel like it's a very real possibility that he's going to go somewhere else. And it stinks, but nature of the business gave us a couple of good seasons. I appreciate Richard Sherman. Okay, let's go to our ridiculous story of the day. Can we just call it that? Like the crazy dumb story of the day that I don't want to talk about, but we have to here. Trade Nick Bosa. Yeah, you see it. Okay, where does this story come from? Let's see. It's SI.com's Grant Cohn who says San Francisco should trade Nick Bosa. There it is. Okay, it all makes sense now. Well, let's see why. He cited durability issues, like I guess the one injury that he had. The injury dating back to high school, okay, has reasons for concern. And of course, the ACL tear in week 2, which, I guess is true. It's like, what player hasn't had injury concerns, by the way? So you know, Grant Cohn says they should trade him. That means they 100% should go ahead and trade him, right? I mean, that just means guaranteed they got to do it. Boy, it's ridiculous. This is not going to happen. Let me just say this right now. It is absolutely not going to happen. But to go ahead and get inside the mind of SI.com's Grant Cohn, let's see what he said in his article about trading Nick Bosa. Quote, I'm betting that Bosa will continue to miss a lot of time. Side note, that's a really bad bet. So I'd trade him now if I were the San Francisco 49ers. I'd trade him before he suffers another injury and his value drops. I'd trade him to the New York Jets for the number 2 pick. The 49ers could trade down and turn Bosa into multiple picks. He would go on to say, ... they could trade down from number 2 to pick up the number 4 pick and use the picks they acquired in that deal to trade for number 12, number 5 pick. I mean, the 49ers could turn 1 injury-prone Bosa into 2 top 5 picks, end quote. Okay. You see what's below me on the screen right now? You probably do. It says, Mott, the 49ers are not trading Nick Bosa. Do you see that? That's all I have to say. There you go. Do I need to say anything else? No, I'm being serious. Listen, they're not going to trade Nick Bosa. You do not take a once-in-a-generation type pass rusher. He looks like he's going to be that and say, yeah, you had a bad injury, which will give Grant Cohn the benefit of the doubt here because it was a bad ACL injury. There are different levels to the ACL injury, and this one turned out to be pretty bad, right? Now, fully recovered. It seems like he's on the right path. He's going to be ready for training camp. Everything seems fine right there. But they're not going to go ahead and say, you know what? You got injured, so that's it. See you later. And then the weird, like, go to 2 and then trade back to 5 and then go up to 4. And I just, it's too much. No, they're not going to do it. Right now, if the 49ers were without Nick Bosa, their defensive line would look a lot like, I don't know, what it looked like this past season, where it went from being a top 5 defensive line to a bottom half of the league defensive line. It wasn't that bad, but it was still not good overall. You do not get rid of a once-in-a-generation pass rusher, even if he has durability issues, especially this early on in his career. I think the Jets would 100% send number 2 overall for Nick Bosa. That seems like a steal. The Niners would be losers in that trade. I'm completely against this. Absolutely ridiculous. I've been against trading him for Deshaun Watson. I would not do it for just the number 2 overall pick. I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask you guys anyway. What do you think? Would you trade Nick Bosa for the number 2 overall pick? Type A for accept if you're crazy. Not really, but you can. Or type D down below for decline, which, of course, I would be declining right now. We're having a lot of D's down below in the chat if it were me, but it's not me. And so, you know, you can kind of do whatever you guys want in terms of your accepting or declining the trade. There are a lot of D's coming in right now, so I understand why, because he is just that good. I mean, listen, when in 18 career games, just 18 career games as a rookie pass rusher, 9 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. He's one of the most, honestly, one of the best young pass rushers we've seen in a very, very long time. He is not going anywhere. If anything, they need to lock him up in the next couple of years with a new long-term deal to go ahead and make sure he stays on San Francisco for many, many years to come. He is one of the pieces you need in trying to win a Super Bowl. Look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What do they do well against Patrick Mahomes, the greatest quarterback of our generation? They got in his face. They gave him a lot of pressure, and they made his night absolutely miserable. Pass rushers are important. You keep Nick Bosa. Now, if they were to do something crazy, we'll cover it here. I mean, you never know, right? You literally never know. This could happen, and I could come on here and be like, guess what? They traded Nick Bosa, and they're crazy, but they did it. But we'll have you guys covered here on the official 49ers Chat Sports YouTube channel. So go ahead and subscribe. The big red subscribe button down below. And don't forget to go ahead and click the notification bell. That way you are notified whenever we go live. Okay, next story here. In terms of cutting Jimmy Garoppolo, what do you think about this? So Mike Florio, you know how I feel about Mike Florio? Not a big fan. Mike Florio likes to stir the pot. That's what he does. He's really good at it. Mike Florio thinks San Francisco will cut Jimmy Garoppolo, basically by citing, well, 1, he's not a very good trade asset. We'll show you the quote in a second. And 2, it'd only be a $2.8 million cap hit if they were to cut him. We talked about this. It's very team-friendly to go ahead and cut Jimmy Garoppolo. But, of course, I hope they don't because they'd rather trade him to get something in return. Now, this will all become a reality if and only if they go ahead and trade for a quarterback, a.k.a. Deshaun Watson. And so if they were to trade for Deshaun Watson, then you got to figure out money-wise and if you want to keep Garoppolo or not. But Florio's idea of the Niners just have to trade Jimmy Garoppolo to me is a little bit ridiculous. Here's what Florio said on Pro Football Talk a couple of days ago. Most presume he'll be traded. But here's the question. The 49ers don't want to keep Garoppolo at the balance of his current contract. Who would trade for the thing? So here's my prediction. 49ers won't eventually roll the dice with Garoppolo again, nor at his current contract. And since they won't be able to trade the contract, they'll cut Garoppolo, taking a cap charge of only $2.8 million. You know, okay, I feel really good. I bet that they will be able to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't think this is a scenario where all their teams are like, ew, Jimmy Garoppolo, yuck, he stinks. I think there are some teams out there that would go, how about a 4th? How about a third? Now, listen, you're not going to get a first-round draft pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not a Carson Wentz trade like you saw the Eagles do earlier today where they got a third and then a potential future first. Pretty good deal for Carson Wentz based on what he did in 2020. They're not going to be able to go out and get a massive haul for Garoppolo. The Patriots, you're telling me the Patriots wouldn't give a third for Jimmy G? They have no quarterback right now. They literally – nothing. Like Cam Newton, he's not even signed. Like, what are you going to do? Jarrett Stidham, the Baylor backup? Nice guy. I've met him, but not the future there. So, with that being said, I think they're going to go ahead and try and trade him. I guess if they absolutely can't trade him and they end up and go ahead and get and they get Deshaun Watson, then maybe cutting is the only solution. But I would bet they were able to trade him before cutting him because the quarterback spot is a little bit too important in the National Football League. And there's someone out there who could use Jimmy Garoppolo, even if it is for just 1 or 2 seasons. What do you guys think? In the end, you had to guess, shake your little 8-ball, look down your crystal ball here, whatever it is. What will the 49ers do with Jimmy G? Type K down below for cut. Type C down below. Sorry, K for keep. I can't read tonight. K for keep. C for cut. Or T for trade. As I, of course, would say T. I think T makes the most sense. But that's just me. It's up to you to go ahead and comment and give me your answers in the comment section right now down below. Okay, before we keep going. There are some betting odds that are coming alive right now in terms of where the Niners could be at the end of next season. So get your bets in right now to win some money. Chatsports.com/49bet. Promo code is Niners125. Get a 125% deposit bonus whenever you first sign up with that promo code. Your NFC Championship odds, not bad in terms of the 49ers. 4th best, right? Bucks obviously won. Yes, the Packers too. Rams, interesting. I guess it's Matt Stafford effect. Plus 650 for the 49ers to go ahead and win the NFC. So essentially, when it says plus 650, it basically means you put $10 down, you win $650. Or sorry, you win $65. Put $100 down, you win $650. So this is if you put $10 down, $100 down, whatever it is, that's what the plus 65 means. Put $10 down, you win $65. If you have any questions, you can always email us. And of course, you can do that with our email, which you will see on your screen here in just 1 second. It is 49ers@chatsports.com. So any sort of betting questions, just in general, like how do I sign up for BetUS? Like maybe I didn't make it clear enough. Or what are the betting odds for this and that? You can email us 49ers@chatsports.com. That is the email to get yourself started. Okay, quickly, final story here before we get into the draft portion of our show, which is where we're going to go right now. So there is a very interesting article right now on NBC Sports Bay Area talking about the Niners drafting a wide receiver. It's Matt Maiocco. I always pronounce his last name wrong. Matt Maiocco, the team reporter for NBC with the San Francisco 49ers. And he thinks the Niners are going to spend a premium draft pick, not a first-round draft pick, but a high draft pick on another wide receiver based on the idea that Jalen Hurd is coming off another bad injury and Kendrick Bourne, while apparently in contract negotiations with San Francisco, is not exactly guaranteed to go ahead and come back to the 49ers. So when you think about this, you go, do they really need another wide receiver? I mean, they got Richie James Jr., they got Jalen Hurd, but I guess if Bourne does leave, then maybe it makes sense. Let's do what Matt Maiocco from NBC Sports Bay Area had to say about drafting another wide receiver. He said, quote, with what figures to be another deep class of wideouts in the draft, the 49ers are likely to vote a draft pick to bolster the position. 49ers are scheduled a compensatory pick at the end of round 3, as well as 1 4th-round selection and 3 more picks in the 5th. I mean, listen, is he wrong? Is he wrong to say they're going to take one in the 5th round? I think you got to kind of differentiate and go, first 3 rounds, probably off limits. So I think you need to get other positions, especially if you need to go ahead and get another cornerback. But later on in the draft, there's probably going to be some pretty good mid to late round wide receivers. A couple of them on your screen right now. Now, Rashad Bateman, let's just get it out of the way. It's probably a 2nd-round draft pick, maybe even a 1st. So he might not be there late, but an option later on. Orlando Moore from Purdue, Tutu Atwell coming in from Louisville, Tylan Wallace out of Oklahoma State, and Sage Surratt from Wake Forest are all options later on in the NFL draft. And so maybe they go ahead and pull the trigger here. I think they have other draft needs, and I honestly feel really, really good about the the chances of Jalen Hurd coming back and being obviously a decent part of the 49er wide receiver core, and even a guy moving over like a Kendrick Bourne being re-signed. I think these are all options at wide receiver. I wouldn't hate drafting one, but I wouldn't spend a high draft pick on it just because, I feel like Deebo and Ayuk are going to be good enough, especially with George Kittle being a tight end on this football team. Okay, quickly, let's jump into our final news story of the day, and that is cutting Dee Ford. So Bleacher Report has predicted the 49ers will cut Dee Ford once we get going with the start of the 2021 NFL offseason. And honestly, it makes a ton of sense because he is just so darn expensive for so little production. 227 snaps since the 5-year contract, 5 years, $85 million. I expect him to probably be cut. We just have to wait a little bit because post June 1, they say $15.3 million versus pre-June 1, you see it there, they only say $5.73 million. Either way, he'll most likely get to go ahead and get rid of a guy who had so much potential and so much promise, and when has been healthy, has been pretty good, but that's just a big caveat. He's not been healthy and not been that good whenever he has not been healthy, and so the odds of them going ahead and letting him go, I think, are very, very strong. And again, this has not anything to do with his personal play on the football field. I think he's still probably one of the better young pass rushers, or not young, but one of the better pass rushers in the league, but he can't stay healthy. Like, Dee Ford cannot stay healthy, so why do you keep paying him to do nothing? I mean, they paid him like $10 million last year to just sit on the bench. He got injured so early, so I'm all for cutting him. I think they 100% will go ahead and cut him. It might just have to be a little bit just because, again, pre-June first deadline, the post-June first deadline, it takes a little bit. So expect them to do that, which means they need to address pass rusher, whether it's re-sign Kerry Hyder or, of course, go into the NFL draft and pick up somebody at number 12 overall or a later round. There's some decent pass rushers. Not a great draft for pass rushers, but not a terrible one for later on in the draft, as we talked about here on the channel for many weeks. Okay, should they cut Dee Ford? What do you guys think? Type C down below for cut, type K down below for keep. I feel like a lot of people will say C for cut. As I have said before, I think he's a very clear cap cut candidate. We'll talk more about this here, obviously, later on, and probably a cap cut video, which we'll do in the coming days and weeks.